It's time again for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show covering fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation and destinations right here in the region you live and play in. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, makers of the world-famous wedding ring spinner, by Loophole, America's Optics Authority, and by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Northwestern Outdoors is also sponsored by Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon, where you'll find both nature and fun. By Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, offering you the affordable Canadian fishing trip of a lifetime. And by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. So grab your fishing rod or hunting gear, load up the boat or lace up your boots, and let's head outdoors with your host, John Cruz.
It's Memorial Day weekend, and that means two things. For most people, it's a 3-day weekend and the traditional start of the summer camping season. Forest Service campgrounds across the Northwest have opened up and are all chock full of campers and tents, trailers, and motorhomes enjoying our forested lands and lakes. However, it's also a time we should be remembering those who have served and have fallen to protect our freedoms. The sad fact of the matter is that a very, very tiny percentage of our population is willing to serve their country in uniform anymore. And while those that do are not hated or despised, they are certainly underappreciated by the greater public who, quite frankly, don't know how lucky they are to live in a country with the freedoms and opportunity we have. Don't get me wrong. I know there's quite a few of you out there that do appreciate our military. But there's quite a few who do not and simply don't understand the sacrifices they make on a daily basis along with their families. That's part of the reason why we put together a special show every Memorial Day weekend where we not only highlight the outdoors here in the Northwest, but also our veterans too. With that in mind, we'll be introducing you to Jeff Mason. He's the founder of Fishing Trips for Heroes. Jeff and his friends hook up with recovering soldiers and airmen at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Lakewood, Washington, and take them fishing. It sounds like a simple thing, but as you'll find out, Jeff and his friends are providing an invaluable service. We'll also talk to Tony Isaac. He's the Public Relations Director of Heroes on the Water, about their national nonprofit organization that takes active duty soldiers, veterans, first responders, and their families out for a day of kayak fishing. Talk about therapeutic. We're also going to talk to a couple of veterans who are both friends and fishermen. One of them is Lance Mers, who you know from Max Lure Company and from our weekly Max Minute segment. He served our country as a military policeman in the U.S. Army. We'll also talk to Anton Jones with Daryl and Dad's Guide Service. This elite ex-Army Ranger operates a guide service on beautiful Lake Chelan in central Washington. He'll tell you how you can catch fish at this popular Memorial Day weekend destination and also tell you about a few other area lakes that offer some fantastic fishing. As usual, we've got our trivia question of the week where you get a chance to win a $25 gift card from Sportsman's Warehouse, and we'll also tell you about an opportunity to go on a guided seaweed walk in Port Orford, Oregon with Dan Sawyer. That's taking place June 7th, and I think you'll really enjoy it. In addition to this, we've got news about cormorants on the Columbia River, a fish hatchery fiasco in Montana, and about a major sporting goods chain that's closing up shop for good. But before we get into that, we've got to tell you about this week's edition of Sportsman Spotlight with Matt and Tom. This time around, the two share a good story about hunting high country bucks and how unique some of those bucks can be.
This is Sportsman Spotlight with Matt and Tom.
Today we have Caleb Vaughn hunting high country bucks. Caleb, where are you having most success?
Just got to go where it's steep and deep. Yeah, I'll pretty much camp right where I hunt. I'll get to one of the highest points you can get into in the saddle and just sit there at first light, see what I can't glass up, and just sit there all day, try and bed something down. It worked out last year where I was glassing about 400 or 500 yards away in a few timber strips and waiting for them to come out of water. And a group of bucks walked into the saddle that I was sitting in and walked into me at about 25 yards and didn't even know I was there. Got the biggest one in the group and shot him.
Good job, Caleb. You know, Caleb, I've hunted some high country in the past, and one of my group members shot kind of a blacktail cross deer. Have you guys came across anything like that up there?
I've heard a few people shooting those. Actually, my father-in-law, he ended up shooting one. He had it tested, and they said that it was a cross between a blacktail and a mule deer. It was real tight, heavy-horned. I mean, it was definitely, it didn't look like a mule deer. It didn't look like a blacktail. It had the mule deer body, and it had the mule deer tail. It definitely had a different look to it in the face. Double white throat patch, a little different. And actually, the buck that I shot had a double white throat patch.
I guess you just never know what you come across up in the mountains.
That was Sportsman Spotlight. Thank you for tuning in.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
This is the time of year to get out and cook out. So make your next meal sizzle with Camp Chef, the brand known for quality outdoor cooking. From camp stoves to cast iron, from smokers to grills, Camp Chef will change the way you cook outdoors. To eat like a king on your next adventure, go to campchef.com or visit your local sporting goods store and get cooking. Whether you're serving breakfast in the backcountry or barbecue on the back patio, savor the simplicity with Camp Chef. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Welcome back to this Memorial Day weekend edition of Northwestern Outdoors Radio. As you know, we like to highlight organizations that do things for veterans and get them outdoors during this weekend, and we found one at the Washington Sportsman Show in Puyallup. It's called Fishing Trips for Heroes, and it's run pretty much single-handedly by Jeff Mason. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Jeff, let's go ahead and set the stage here. Joint Base Lewis McChord, located Lakewood, Washington, Western Washington. A lot of soldiers are coming here from places like Afghanistan, from places like Iraq, and they've suffered some pretty severe injuries. Post-traumatic stress syndrome, in some cases traumatic brain injuries. And what is their life like as they are here being treated?
Their life is a lot of appointments, seeking the treatment they need to move on in their lives. And as you know, if you've ever been to a doctor's office or anything like that, it's hurry up and wait. So a lot of downtime between appointments.
So you've done something to help these soldiers with their downtime, and also to give them some, outdoors therapy, for lack of a better word. Tell me what you're doing and how you came up with this idea. We'll take it in two steps. First off, let's just talk about Fishing Trips for Heroes. You retired as a regional manager for a whole bunch of 7-Eleven stores, and you saw a need here, didn't you?
Yeah, I started making decisions about what I wanted to do with my time, and it was definitely going to be giving back, and I love to fish. I've been doing it since I was 5 years old, so I thought, why not? I had the resources and the opportunity to do it, so I did some checking around and found out that fishing trips was the most requested activity for those soldiers at JBLM and the Warrior Transition Battalion as they were between appointments, and there was a definite need there, so it kind of went, even I could figure that opportunity out.
So you basically reached out and said, I'd be happy to go ahead and take some of these soldiers fishing.
That's correct. I and a couple of my friends who help out set up a program with the Warrior Transition Battalion where I post dates that I'm going to be doing trips, and usually 8 to 10 trips a month, and that way the soldiers know what days I'll be available, and they sign up accordingly at the base, and we get out for a day on the water as long as Mother Nature is cooperating with us when the rivers aren't blown out and things of that nature.
Are you contracting with the Army for this service? Are the soldiers paying you like they would pay a guide, or is this free of charge?
Oh, thanks for asking that question. I sometimes forget about that. No, this is free of charge. There's no contracting going on. I have set Fishing Trips for Heroes up as a 501c3 and take donations. Really, what I am is a conduit for people and organizations that want to help out. They donate to my 501c3, and I have the distinct pleasure of taking our soldiers' families out on fishing trips for what I call Northwest fishing experience, a variety of those. We fish salmon, trout, steelhead, and we do it year-round. I'll provide about 100 trips myself this year, and through some networking and opportunities to come out, we'll provide a total of about 300 fishing experiences to people this year.
You're listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Jeff Mason. He is the man who runs Fishing Trips for Heroes. He's taking our wounded soldiers who are on the road to getting better fishing as a way of therapy and helping them with the downtime. So let's talk a little bit more about this downtime. When it comes to especially post-traumatic stress syndrome, I'm guessing, a service like yours where you're getting them outside, giving them something to do, has got to be therapeutic by itself.
Well, it sure seems to make a difference, I can tell you that. And the way I measure that, oftentimes a soldier will bring a spouse, good friend, or somebody, and we may have a mediocre fishing day, let's say on an 11 or 12 mile drift boat trip, and on a personal level, I'm getting frustrated because the fish aren't cooperating, or the guide isn't doing his job in some cases maybe. And it was, to me, it was an okay mediocre fishing trip as far as the results go. And a couple days later I'll hear back from that spouse or significant other, and they are just raving about the time that they had and how much they enjoyed it. And what I've learned from that is things that I take as natural or just kind of take them for granted as a day on the river is not the same for everybody. It can be huge for them, even though there was only a couple of fish. That was significant for them, and I always have to keep that in mind.
Let's go ahead and talk about some of the trips you're taking these soldiers out on. I guess we'll start off with Steelhead, because that's fresh in a lot of people's minds right now. Where are you taking them?
Well, this time of year, I'm fishing the Wainuchi. We do drift boat trips January through March. The river closes at the end of March. Then we move over to the Cowlitz River, where we use the jet sled to fish. And then starting in May and June, it's pretty much all family trout fishing trips up at Mineral Lake. The soldiers have opportunities to do some things, not enough, but I've learned that the families oftentimes are kind of left behind. So on all the weekends, May and June, family trout fishing trips for both the wounded warriors and for the warrior widows and their families. And it's a great time. We barbecue hamburgers, and the boat looks like a floating 7-Eleven store thanks to my old connections.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Moving forward into summer and into fall, where are you taking the soldiers then?
Summertime, we'll be doing summer run steelhead fishing both on the Columbia River and the Cowlitz River. That's, T-shirts and shorts and a good time. And then in the fall, it's pretty hardcore, 4 to 5 trips a week. And we start on the Columbia, and then we move up into the Cowlitz in through September. And then in March, it's a combination of the Cowlitz River and then the Chehalis system for October and November.
How many trips did you take last year? How many soldiers, how many trips did you do in 2015?
Well, I did I was at 91 trips, I think it was, and it would have been more. My goal was 125, and I would have hit that. However, as most fishermen know, the coho fishing just fell off the face of the earth, and I don't like taking people just on a boat ride. So we ended up canceling a lot of trips. In 2016, my goal again will be 100 to 125 trips, and we've also been able to branch out to other opportunities. In particular, the community of Cathlamet has started a Wounded Warrior Salmon Derby. This year it'll be at the end of August, and we'll be taking probably about 60 soldiers down for that. And then in May, we'll have the first ever Wounded Warrior, Warrior Widow, and Families Trout Fishing Derby up at Mineral Lake. So, my goal is 125 people for that alone, and then another 60. And so it'll be about, the goal, and should be attainable, will be over 300 fishing experiences for this group.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Again, folks, we're talking to Jeff Mason. He is the founder of Fishing Trips for Heroes, taking soldiers and their families out on free fishing trips. So we're broadcasting here from the Washington Sportsman Show in Puyallup. The crowds are starting to come in, so we're going to have to wrap things up pretty soon. But before we do, I want to direct people towards your website to find out more about your organization, because you're putting in a lot of work here. This is truly a passion, but this is costing you some money. I mean, if nothing else, there's fuel and food. How can people help out Fishing Trips for Heroes?
Our website is, just as it says, fishingtripsforheroes.com. My email is fishing.jeffmason@gmail.com. You can get a hold of me there. And really what I am is a conduit. I do receive donations, and there's a lot of people, organizations that really want to help our soldiers. And all I am really is a conduit of them being able to donate and get it directly to a soldier. It's just me. There's no overhead. There's no offices or salaries. I don't pay myself any of this. So they know that 100% of their donation goes directly to providing these trips.
That's fishin'tripsforheroes.com. Fishin', no G, tripsforheroes.com. Check it out, and, do me a favor. Support Jeff. He's doing some great work for our soldiers that truly need it. Jeff, thanks for the service you provide, and thanks for sharing this with us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Hey, thanks for coming by and giving me this opportunity.
Looking for a quality fishing adventure that won't break the bank? Then head to Canada for an all-inclusive fishing vacation with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Big salmon, halibut, snapper, and lingcod are waiting for you off Vancouver Island. But space is limited, so book now at coastwidesportsfishing.com. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com.
Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top-quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at Leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
You're back with more of the great outdoors on Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again, Lance Mers with Max Lure Company. Lance, we're not talking necessarily about fishing lures or where to go fish this week. We're talking about a place where you're going to find a lot of information about fishing on the web, in particular, your Facebook page.
Yeah, John. We're living in a society where modern technology has taken over our lives completely. Our Facebook site has tips and tricks on what you can do and how to use Max Lure products. We've got a numerous amount of contests where you can like and share and win things from Max Lure. So there's a lot of good things going on, discounts, specials, some of our trips that we've had and how we're using it, what we're doing. It's a really good page.
Well, not only that, but on occasion you'll also find editions of the Max Minute on there as well with Lance and I. So lots of good reasons to go there. Is it just Max Lure? Is that what people look for when they want to go to the Facebook page?
Yeah, absolutely. You can type in fishing Max Lure or just type in Max Lure. You can find us, definitely. And the more people talk about it, the better they're going to be at knowing how to use the product. And that's exactly what we want fishermen to do. I know because I go out there and I catch fish with this product. A lot of people don't believe me, but it works. It really works.
Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to fishing. If you can get the information to use the lure effectively and find out what the colors are, what the depth is, exactly how to fish that lure in a specific body of water, kind of stuff you're going to learn on this Facebook page from time to time. That is power that's going to help you get a limit of fish. So one more time, just look for Max Lure on Facebook. Go ahead and like that page, start following it, and be a fisherman in the know. Hey, we're talking to Lance Mers today with Max Lure Company about a brand new lure that's just slaying the trout out there on area lakes. It's the Smile Blade Spin Drift Trout Lure from Max Lure Company. Lance, what makes this lure so special?
Well, we've got our Max Lure patented Smile Blade, our high UV components, and the Spin Drift hook, which gives it a great corkscrew action in the water.
There you go, folks. All three components help you catch more fish. The Smile Blade Spin Drift Trout Lure, only from Max Lure Company.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after, whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. It's Memorial Day weekend, and as you know, we always try to highlight organizations that help our veterans. Well, one such organization I've run across is Heroes on the Water. It's very, very unique, and with us here to tell us more about it is Tony Isaac. He's the Public Relations Coordinator for the Northwest chapter of Heroes on the Water. Tony, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I'm really excited about telling our listeners more about what your organization does. Heroes on the Water. Go ahead and tell our listeners the basic premise of what you do.
Okay. We are part of a national nonprofit. We have over 52 chapters throughout the U.S., and what we all do is we take military veterans, active duty, and first responders, and we include their families in the events. And what we do is we take them kayak fishing free of charge. And pretty much we just provide everything for a relaxing day on the water of kayak fishing.
You know, having been on a few kayaks and canoes in my time, talk about therapeutic. I mean, time on the water with nothing but just the sound of the paddle and the dripping water as you take stroke after stroke, and then fishing on top of it. It doesn't get much better than that. How long has this organization been in existence?
Heroes on the Water as an organization has been around since 2007, started out of Texas. Jim Dolan, great guy, he started out and he realized the therapeutic of taking the guys and gals, the soldiers, out of the hospital atmosphere, taking them out of the water, give them something a little more therapeutic, a little exercise, enjoying the outdoors, and the calm that it brought to them.
So I'm guessing that you do a lot of events in terms of, or is it one-on-one? How do you do the outreach and how do you get these veterans on the water?
Well, we do a little of both, actually. We do scheduled events. We'll start here in the Northwest. We'll start in April and go all the way through to November. We actually will do one-on-one events for individuals who don't do so well with crowds as well.
And again, this is for military veterans, so if you're listening out there and you're a veteran, or if you know one, Heroes on the Water is going to be a good organization for you to reach out at, and we'll give you that contact information in just a couple of minutes here. But let's go ahead and start turning our focus to here in the Northwest. Northwest chapter, where do you operate? Where do you do your events?
We operate within the Puget Sound area. I will add that our next nearest chapter is down in Portland, and they support the Oregon area as well. But we do the Puget Sound area. We hit a lot of the local lakes. We do the Puget Sound, and we actually do the Hood Canal area, and we actually have stretched out as far as going out to Nia Bay.
Wow. Okay. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I guess we have to talk about something else here. You know, I love kayaking and canoeing, but if you've never been in a kayak before, it can be a little bit intimidating. Do you have to kind of get over that barrier with some of these veterans who have never been on a kayak before?
Oh, absolutely. We design our events for areas that are calm. We're not going to make the first time out on the water really, really challenging.
So you're not going from Nia Bay into the Strait of Juan de Fuca?
No, we work on that after they've been out for a few events. Once they get their confidence up, we can ask a few of the more advanced kayak fishermen that want to come out and join us. But I mean, we can be out on a lake where it's really, really calm, and we're not just going to send them out there on their own. We have fishing guides. We're actually, we provide that. We give them the confidence, train them, give them the information they need to be comfortable in a kayak. Teach them a little bit about fishing, and then we actually send them out with a kayak fishing guide.
All right, so let's talk about the kayaks themselves. Are these sit-on tops, or are they the ones that have the cockpits in them? Tell me about the kayaks that you use.
You do. You have two different basic types of kayaks, a sit-in and sit-on top. Sit-on top is a little more stable platform, very forgiving, and we have a variety of different widths. So the wider they are, the more stable they are, and the person that we put in the water, the confidence, if they lower confidence, we'll give them a little wider kayak so they feel comfortable.
Mine would look like a donut, folks. So let's go ahead and move on, though. Let's talk through how one of these events works. So you've done some outreach. A veteran and maybe their family is signed up. They're going to go to a local lake. What happens when they show up?
We ask them for we don't charge for this. This is absolutely free. We tell them to dress for the weather, maybe bring a change of clothes and a towel in case they get wet. It does happen occasion that somebody might get wet, just for the fun of it, of course. We provide, they meet, sign up, so we know that they're there. introduce them to the fishing guides, some of the safety rules that we have, and then we kind of split off after they've had like a light breakfast, familiarize them with the kayak, and that's the best part. They have the option to go and do what they want to do, so they have the freedom. They're the captain of their own boat. We have a nice lunch set aside, and then we give them the option if they want to go back out afterwards. So
it sounds like these are like 3-4 hour events, generally speaking.
No, we're talking usually guesstimating probably about 7-8 o'clock in the morning till 3 in the afternoon.
Oh, wow. So it's a full day.
Yeah, we're not going to drag anybody off the water if they're having fun.
All right. Well, I love this. Absolutely love it. Let's talk about some of the local lakes where some of your events are held. And what are you fishing for, too?
Oh, I'm looking forward to this. Actually, our first event will probably be out at Lake Tanawax. With the help of Fish and Wildlife, they're going to open up the lake for us, so we have a private event, which is kind of nice. So we'll be fishing for trout. And as the weather changes, we're actually kind of chasing whatever kind of species of fish is available at that time. So when crab season opens up, we'll start crabbing, which is one of my favorite events. Once you get me out in the water, I really don't want to come back in. But when you know that we've got fresh crabs and we're going to do a crab boil right there on the beach for everybody, that's pretty exciting.
Not only exciting, you got me salivating just at the thought of it. It sounds fantastic. So, trout for some waters, bass for some waters. When you're in the salt water, flounder, sole while you're crabbing, I presume?
Absolutely. Whatever we can really get into. We stay away from the rockfish, obviously, but, we're teaching them about the environment as well,
And what's the feedback you're getting from veterans who participate in this?
It's a variety of feedback. A lot of people are very, very quiet when they start off the day, and you can kind of see their demeanor change through the day, the excitement. And the biggest compliment we can get is that they want to come back, or they want to come back and volunteer. Personally, for me, I was a participant for my first event, and I've been a volunteer ever since.
And let's talk about that. There's at least one national organization that has been in the news for all the wrong reasons. That's a nonprofit. What's your funding structure? How does this work in terms of, when it comes to Heroes on the Water, are you all volunteer-based or are there paid employees?
Each of the chapters are volunteer-based. There are no paid employees. We do this because we want to be there. We want to help the military out. We want to give back. So we do this strictly from donations to help keep our program going.
Fantastic. Let's go ahead and talk about one more thing. When it comes to Heroes on the Water, how do folks get a hold of you? So, if we have veterans that are listening or family members who want to have veterans contact you, what's a website?
Okay, our website is heroesonthewater.org. All of our chapters are listed there, and you can find our Northwest chapter or our Portland chapter. You can also email us at nwest@heroesonthewater.org, or you can give us a call or text us at 253-905-5297. And we also have a Facebook page as well for the Northwest chapter.
Well, there you go. Lots of ways to contact the folks at Heroes on the Water and set up a kayak fishing trip for somebody that you love or somebody that needs it. Again, the website is simply heroesonthewater.org, heroesonthewater.org, or go to their Facebook page. Just go ahead and look for Heroes on the Water Northwest, or give them a call. It's 253-905-5297. That's 253-905-5297 per Heroes on the Water, healing our veterans by giving them some therapeutic time on kayaks and taking them fishing. Tony, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your hiking boots and camera and capture the beauty and grandeur of Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Experience nature like never before when you saddle up and ride into the Eagle-Capped Wilderness, hike the trails of the Wallowas, hear the wind rush through the bunch grass and view the wildlife of the Zumwalt Prairie, or ride the churning waters of the wild and scenic Wallowa, Snake, and Grand Ronde rivers. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
I'm Bob Loomis, and I fish for walleye. Sometimes when I'm out on the water, I feel like a destroyer captain hunting for targets with my electronics. I'm not hunting submarines, though. I'm hunting fish, and when I find that big one on the fish finder, I want to make sure she's going to bite. That's where the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig from Max Lure comes in. The Smile Blade spins and flashes at ultra-slow speeds, and the one-of-a-kind red hook keeps that bait moving in a way the fish can't resist. It's the Smile Blade Slow Death Rig, only from Max Lure.
Good hunters know before you take that shot, you've got to see the whole picture. Now, the best way to do that is with a spotting scope, binoculars, or a rifle scope, but it's got to be from Leupold. Now, Leupold is a Northwest company with a reputation that stretches across the world for making superior optics. Look for Leupold Optics at your local Cabela store, Dick's Sporting Goods, or online at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optical authority.
Welcome back to our special Memorial Day weekend edition of Northwestern Outdoors Radio. It's time for news and reports from the field, and we start off by letting you know that Sports Authority, the sporting goods retailer with 450 stores across the nation, many of them in the western U.S., is shutting down. Yep, they've declared bankruptcy, and nobody is willing to pour any more money into this failing chain. That means two things. There's going to be some pretty good deals in the months ahead during their anticipated going out of business sale, and after that, over 14,000 workers will be out of a job. I've been to a couple Sports Authority stores over the years and found they tried to be a little bit of everything and didn't quite have the gear to pull it off. They did have some hunting gear, some fishing tackle, some camping gear, but they also catered to golf, tennis, racquetball, softball, and team sports too. Heck, they even sold trampolines, kind of a big mishmash of sporting stuff for lack of a better word. I never really found anyone on the fishing or hunting side of the stores that I went to that had a whole lot of knowledge about their products, how to use them, or where to use them, and I guess in the end, my experience must have been shared by enough other people that folks simply stopped going to Sports Authority stores and spending money there. And so it goes. We've also got bad news out of Great Falls, where Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks reports a May 12th power outage at nearby Rainbow Dam caused the Missouri River's water levels to rise and contaminate the waters within the Giant Springs fish hatchery. This is a problem because trout in the Missouri River have been exposed to whirling disease, and when that water went into the hatchery, the fish inside were potentially exposed to it as well. As a result, except for a small amount of fish being released into a juvenile fishing pond on site, 500,000 trout, that's right, 500,000 trout are going to be destroyed. These trout were scheduled to be released in lakes and reservoirs across the great state of Montana. This will have an impact on trout anglers, but it could be worse. Fortunately, there are 11 other fish hatcheries producing trout in the state of Montana, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has also agreed to help out with donated hatchery fish. And finally, from Northwest Cable News, we learn a cormorant colony along the Columbia River has suffered a complete collapse. More than 16,000 birds have abandoned the East Sand Island cormorant nesting colony, according to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Independent monitors discovered that on May 16th, the colony had abandoned all of its nests. In its wake, gulls, eagles, and crows came in and ate all the cormorant eggs that were left behind. The Corps has killed more than 4,500 birds over the past year in an effort to protect the salmon population there. That's the paraphrase Northwest Cable News story. Here's my take and the rest of the story. The Audubon Society is very upset about this, saying the island had become a cormorant killing ground and bemoaning the fact this had occurred. Salmon and steelhead anglers, on the other hand, who are well aware of how much damage these birds are doing to our salmon and steelhead stocks, can be forgiven if they quietly applaud this news. Golf claps can commence now. Next up on this Memorial Day weekend edition of Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we're heading to Lake Chelan, a very popular destination in central Washington for Memorial Day with lots of tourists and with anglers too. With us here to tell us more about the fishing around Lake Chelan is Anton Jones. He is the owner of Daryl and Dad's Guide Service. He's also a veteran, and not just a veteran, an elite soldier, no less. He's a former Army Ranger. Anton, thank you for your service.
You're welcome, John. Thanks for interviewing me.
Well, always a pleasure. And haven't had you on the air for a little bit, and we were overdue. But let's talk about Lake Chelan. I was just down and talking to your associate guide, Jeff Witkowski. He just got into the boat ramp, and he had a really nice stringer of Mackinaw, of kokanee, and rainbow trout. Quite the assortment of fish that are being pulled out of Lake Chelan right now.
Yeah, the Mackinaw fishing has just been amazingly consistent. Mostly, 3 to 5 pound fish. We've been working up through the Narrows and then right here in Manson Bay and all over. and it's been extraordinarily consistent. As always, just got to stay close to the bottom and keep your speed consistent, you'll be fine.
This is a deep lake, though, folks. I mean, you're fishing sometimes, 240 feet deep for these Mackinac?
Sometimes we're close to 400 feet deep.
Wow.
Especially fishing up through the Narrows, we'll usually drop our gear in about 170, 180 feet of water, and we're working our way deeper out through what we call Collier Ledge, and usually pulling our gear at about 380 feet.
So let's talk about the kokanee real quick. This has been a banner year for kokanee fishing at Lake Chelan.
Yeah, the numbers have been really good. If there's a downside, it's been that the consistently larger kokanee haven't been there, but the numbers have been spectacular. Jeff was able to limit the boat again today. And then the other bonus in the shallow water have been these West Slope cutthroat that Department of Fish and Wildlife have worked so hard to reestablish in here, and they have really been throughout the lower basin in great numbers. It's a double whammy in the shallow water in Chelan. It's been spectacular.
Right, and I guess that brings me to the next question. You know, not everybody has a boat. If you want to fish Lake Chelan and get in on the action, where can you do it, and what should you be targeting?
Well, if you're talking about fishing from shore, any of the public access sites from Chelan through Mill Bay and Manson over State Park area, and that, I think you mainly want to target those cutthroat. And you can fish bait, you can throw spinners. You have to remember that for cutthroat, they have to have a clipped adipose fin to be keepable.
Now, are they still planting rainbow trout as well?
No, they didn't plant rainbow trout this year. They in past years, they've put some triploids in, and about a week or so ago, we got a 3-pound, 6-ounce rainbow off the dock, almost 22 inches.
Oh, my gosh.
The West Slope cutthroat have been the bulk of the shallow water catch. And, of course, the smallmouth bass are there in great numbers, too.
As I found out myself, making a couple casts, got myself a smallmouth bass while I was fishing off the dock there at the boat launch. So let's turn our attention to some of the smaller lakes that are just north of Manson. Wampano Lake used to be one of those popular trout fishing lakes in the state, routinely churned out limits on opening day. Haven't heard as much about it lately.
It actually has been cranking out pretty good limits of rainbows. The great thing about Wapato Lake this year has been the size. Most of these are 12 to 16 inches, but oh my goodness, they are fat. I mean, they're almost shaped like sunfish. The food source, whatever they're keying on in there, has worked really well and has really plumped these fish up. Some of these 16-inch fish are going close to 2 pounds.
What are some of the other lakes north of Manson where folks ought to consider fishing?
Well, Rose's Lake is kind of the potpourri. It has everything in it. The rainbows in it, there have been numerous, but they've been smaller this year, mostly around 10 inches. It also has some of the biggest channel catfish in the state. I've seen a few over 20 pounds come out of Rose's. And for a while there, it had the state record tiger trout. And then if you get on the road just before you get out to Wapato Lake and go 5 miles up the hill to Anilon, that's a really good brown trout crappie fishery of all things.
You know, I was going to head there today, but I ran out of time. And speaking of running out of time, you and I are running out of time, my friend. So before we go, though, I want to give out your website and your phone number because, folks, a day on Lake Chelan with Anton or with Jeff Witkowski is a day you're going to truly enjoy, and the fishing has been fantastic. The website to find out more is Daryl with 2 L's and dads.com. That's Daryl and dads.com, or give Anton a call at 509-687-0709. That's 509-687-0709. Anton, always a pleasure to talk with you, and I hope you have a great week.
Oh, you too, John. Thanks.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your camping equipment and fishing gear and head out to Northeast Oregon, where you'll find the views are endless, the air crisp and clean, and the water's cold and clear. Set up camp by the shores of Wallowa Lake or in the heart of the Wallowa-Whitman National Forest. Take your fishing gear and cast your bait into the deep waters of Wallowa Lake, or roll your fly into one of the eddies of the many freestone creeks and rivers teeming with fish. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Want to earn a serious reward? You can, and all you need is a fishing rod. There's money to be made catching northern pike minnow. There's too many of them in the Columbia and Snake Rivers, and we'll pay you cash to catch them. Pike minnow eat our salmon and steelhead, and that's no good. The season starts May 1st, runs through September, and the more fish you catch, the more you earn. How much money can you make from this program? Well, last year, one angler earned a cool $100,000. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org. Go ahead, collect your reward.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
Hi, I'm Craig Boddington. I've written about hunting for 40 years, much of it in bear country. I trust my life to bear spray because the research is in. It stopped bears 92% of the time and prevented injury 98% of the time. Bear spray requires less accuracy and won't harm your companions or the bear. Carry bear spray in bear country. Keep it accessible and practice.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX Mackenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your Mackenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Bi-Mart stores. BX Mackenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
This is the time of year to get out and cook out. So make your next meal sizzle with Camp Chef, the brand known for quality outdoor cooking equipment. To eat like a king on your next adventure, go to campchef.com or visit your local sporting goods store and get cooking. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after. Whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
One more time this week for Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
Let's talk about a few things coming up in the days ahead. The first one is a seaweed walk. That's right. How's that for unique? Dan Sawyer is leading a seaweed walk on the southern Oregon coast. It's going to take place at the Port Orford Marina Tuesday, June 7th from 8 to 10 a.m. The cost is whatever you care to donate for this 2-hour walk and talk where you'll learn about all sorts of edible seaweeds and vegetation from a man who knows all about it. We've had him on the show. He knows his stuff. Bring scissors or a knife, a bucket, and some good boots for what ought to be an awesome and educational low-tide walk. Another upcoming event is going on right now. It's the Sportsman's Warehouse 30th anniversary sale, and it continues through Sunday. You'll find incredible deals on firearms to include Ruger 22 rifles and pistols, canoes, Camp Chef Dutch ovens, GPS devices, Gerber knives, backpacks, boots, and all sorts of fishing tackle. Check it out at a Sportsman's Warehouse store near you, but make sure you do it this weekend because it ends Sunday. And now it's time for your Memorial Day weekend trivia question of the week. This large elk, found on Washington's Olympic Peninsula and Alaska's Raspberry Island, is named after the colonel who earned a Medal of Honor and would become a president after he led his Rough Riders on a charge up San Juan Hill in Cuba during the Spanish-American War. What is the name of this elk? Give us your guess on our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Simply like our page, look for the post we'll have there, and give us your guess. Or, if you prefer, go to our website at northwesternoutdoors.com. Go to the Contact Us page, and again, let us know. What is the name of this elk named after the colonel who led his Rough Riders up San Juan Hill during the Spanish-American War? While you're on the web, be sure to tune in to WRVO Radio. You'll find it at RenoViolaOutdoors.com. It's a very unique website. It's an internet radio station dedicated to outdoors programming 7 days a week. We're part of the lineup, happy to be there, and I think you'll enjoy listening to outdoors radio from all over North America just like I do. The website again, RenoViolaOutdoors.com. That's all for this week, but before we go, I want to give a shout out to all of our veterans, all of our active duty soldiers, sailors, and airmen who are listening, and to their families as well. I understand the sacrifice you're making, and I'm not the only one associated with this show. There's a lot of our listeners, too, who appreciate all that you do and the sacrifices you make. So until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.